This week, we are joined by the head coach of the women's golf program here at the University of Maryland, Kelly Hovland. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys.
So you started officially as a head coach here in 2021 and recently just signed an extension to the 2028-2029 season. It's a long ways away. Is that something, in the past couple of months you had known was going to happen? How did that process kind of come to be that you were going to get the extension?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a surprise, but a great surprise after kind of the end of last of the spring season. I had 2 years left on my contract, so it kind of caught me off guard. But obviously, having a great deal of success can change the timeline a little bit in my favor. So Dame was gracious enough to extend that to me, and just so excited and grateful to be a Terp long term. And this is where I want to be. This is where I want to stay and raise my family and continue to build this program in the best way I can. So it's definitely it's always a big relief. That's life sometimes, as a coach. And that's something that I don't have to worry about for at least a few more years.
Absolutely. Nothing like someone telling you you still can be employed for a couple more years. Was there a special way that you found out that Damon Evans told you? Was there like a special instance he caught you in?
End of the year review, which, is, can be a lot of tension, a lot of anxiety as a head coach. So to walk into that meeting, especially in the ever changing landscape of college athletics, you just don't know what that's going to be. And so to have that kind of news extended to me in that meeting was changed the entire outlook of that meeting. It was very positive, and like I said, I owe that a lot to the great student athletes I've been able to have in our program that have really helped me earn that. So it was kind of a team effort, and just grateful to have that partnership with Damon and with Libby Ellis and all of the wonderful staff here at Maryland Athletics. So grateful to continue to be part of the Terp family.
I want to take it back a little bit and kind of go to the moment where you decided you wanted to be a coach and you realized that was your calling. Was that while you were playing at Southern Illinois, you kind of realized, this is kind of what I want to do in the future. This is something I'm interested in?
Quite the opposite, actually. Well, first off, I grew up in a house full of coaches. My dad was a long time football, basketball, baseball, high school coach, and in the Illinois State Hall of Fame for coaching in basketball and volleyball. Over 1,000 wins coaching. So it kind of always grew up around the kitchen table talking about those type of dynamics. So that was definitely always in the foundation of me as an athlete, coming from a coach's background. But then after got done playing golf, really wanted to run pretty far away from it, thinking I had other aspirations. So went to graduate school, worked in politics actually for 5 years, thinking that was more my path, and realized after a kind of so I was working on the House of Representatives, then working on K Street, doing things like that. And in my spare time, started teaching at a junior college, political science, right? So I'm all in. And then realized that actually I was a pretty good communicator. I was a pretty good motivator. And that interaction with students was really profound for me. And I really enjoyed that. And that kind of took me back to my college experience and how my coach interacted with me. And even though I was pushing those things away when I was in college, how important they really were to who I was as a person in that moment. So got out of politics and became the assistant coach at the U.S. Naval Academy, not too far away, right? So I didn't have to move. And things like that to try it out. And 7 years later, jumped over to Maryland and, haven't looked back. So it's been actually a very quick but long, transition to coaching and one of the best moves I ever made, and grateful for all those people that kind of supported me and said, even my husband, when I was deciding to take a $50,000 pay cut to get into coaching, and obviously that's a family decision, right? And he said, listen, I'd do it if I could. And that's all the push I needed, and grateful for his support in making that jump.
Yeah, and at Navy, you were an associate head coach there for 7 seasons, I
Yeah.
believe. What was that like to be coaching at a service academy compared to, I guess, now when you're at Maryland in College Park? What's kind of like the differences there?
Well, listen, if you can recruit at a service academy, you can recruit anywhere. Right? I'm not just asking, those kids to play golf for me. I'm asking them to, commit themselves for 5 to 7 years after they graduate. So that was really set the tone for kind of my abilities to get really good people into your program. But also in that role was a teaching instructor as well. So both LPGA and PGA instructor, and and that foundation that I learned recruiting there, that I learned teaching there, actually as a golf instructor. There aren't many people with that background at now the Power 5 level. I'm the only one at the Power 5 level that has that background. So I had to really kind of get dirty over there in terms of like long hours and not a lot of good golf and things like that. But what I did at that level really enabled me to kind of have the success that we've had here since I've been at Maryland. So grateful for those years to just get over there and you're a one woman, two woman shop over there. So it's all you're able to kind of run your show the way you want. And that's taught me a lot about building your program as you get to a more elite level here at Maryland.
You mentioned recruiting, so let's talk about recruiting here at Maryland. I know across college golf in general, there are tons of players who come from the international landscape, and so you have to extend your recruiting not just in the U.S.
Yeah.
but all around the world. What kind of challenges does that propose when you're having to recruit? Probably calling people like crazy hours, stuff like that. How hard is it to recruit people internationally, and what strategies do you have for that? Are you going overseas and stuff like that, or?
Yeah. Just have a good, frequent flyer account on an airline because you're going to use it. I go to them typically. I've been to Thailand, I've been to Europe, Spain, South America, everywhere. Really going to where the talent is. It's not as hard as you would think because typically you go to those big tournaments, right? But you got to get to them, and then they kind of can find you over there. So it's a little bit of identifying where the most players are going to be and go to those tournaments. I typically go to Europe 3 to 4 times a year. Thailand probably every other year. The good thing though is Maryland is so attractive to international players. It's a place that they want to be. It's a phenomenal academic institution, and we play golf at a high level. So it's a great fit for international, and that's just the way college golf is right now. If you look at the best teams in the country, if you tune into the national championship, you're going to see a ton of international players right now. I think that will hopefully shift. Not hopefully. I think that will shift as the U.S. is starting to do some of the same things that Europeans are doing. But right now the landscape is heavily international. And so that's what, we want to compete at a high level. So that's where I'm going to have to do a lot of recruiting.
And with the team this year, you only have 9 players. I assume as a coach, when you have a little bit smaller of a roster, it's a lot more of an intimate connection with your players. Can you kind of tell us about that coach-player relationship that you have?
Yeah, I think in golf it's so individualized from person to person, strengths and weaknesses, where development needs to happen. Someone might be a really strong putter, someone might be a really weak putter. So you can't just have a one prescription that's going to meet the needs of all your players. 9's actually a relatively big roster for women's golf, even though it seems small. But we have a small staff, so you really can't have too many people if you want to maintain some of those, some of the one-on-one attention. But coming from as a teaching professional, I think that's a big strength of ours here at Maryland, is I'm able to individualize practice plans, both on a technical level and more of a coaching level, to get them to not only have sound fundamentals and technique and mechanics, but then also how do we kind of convert that into making birdies and producing good scores. So how we do that is very specific practice planning on different days. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, we're almost one-on-one with our players. Even though there might be more people there, we're able to kind of really individualize what each person is doing based off their stats, based off what they're seeing and what we're seeing as well as having my assistant coach and then a third coach as well. So we can really get in there and maintain some of that, what's going on, both on the golf course and off the golf course, which is so imperative in the sport of golf because it is so intertwined, even more so than other sports.
What's practice like this time of year in Maryland? Obviously, the season kind of just got started again like 2 weeks ago. But what's it like, this time of year where playing golf outside isn't, necessarily ideal?
Yeah, first and foremost, check the forecast about 10 times a day because it changes. And then have probably 3 contingency plans. I typically will have an indoor practice plan an outdoor practice plan, and some type of combination. And it can change literally throughout the morning. So the biggest part about, I think, this time of year is asking my players for flexibility and benefit of the doubt, that I might have to change the practice plan, but we're doing it in the best interest of, kind of your outcomes. And so I think if you can kind of be on the same page that this is a challenge that we're facing, but we're grateful for the weather that we do have. Most of the Big Ten Conference would give anything to have our weather at Maryland, and so we approach it with a ton of gratitude and seizing the opportunity. I mean, we've played in the past 5 days. We've played 4 rounds of golf. Right, while you guys were all sitting in your living rooms by the fireplace, we were out there getting after it. We're playing again today. We played yesterday. So those are the opportunities, not the challenges that we get kind of with our weather here. And to be honest, college golf in the spring, it's going to be this. We're going to go down to some of the coldest tournaments I've played have been in Florida, right? Because it's just dynamic this time of year. And so I've always said that Maryland has good enough weather we get to play outside, but challenging enough weather that we get to prepare for what we're going to see in tournaments. And I think if you go with that mindset and seize those opportunities, then the weather doesn't seem quite as bad. Just a good opportunity to prepare.
What is the status on the golf development center that the athletic department's been planning, and how will that help you in those kind of conditions that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's going to be great. And, so appreciative of Damon Evans and the entire staff support and recognition of the need that we have here for both the men's and women's programs. We're the only school in the Big Ten that doesn't have some type of facility to be able to utilize both in the recruitment process and the development process. To be honest, I don't know if that building would change the last 5 days for our team, right? I think a lot of players think, oh, I'm going to get in there and I can hit balls in a t-shirt and a sweatshirt. That's not how I'm running things. But what it will be, obviously tomorrow we're supposed to get 5 inches of snow. That will be a huge resource to continue on developing our players. But probably the biggest aspect that will introduce to our players is more technology. Those type of things that we aren't able to set up on a consistent basis because we don't have protected, not just from cold weather, but any weather. So we're going to introduce a ton of new tools that, other teams are utilizing that we just haven't been able to introduce. So it's an excitement from all different levels, as well as just bringing the University of Maryland golf course is such an asset to our campus, to our programs, but even to all of our students, faculty, and our community. So to introduce not only this building that will be primarily for our team, but a short game area outside of it that will be used to the public, and a pavilion and heated bays and lights. I think it'll be just such a great asset for this community to have, and honestly unique to this area. There's just not going to be many areas like that that our students and our community will have access to.
Sticking on the practice theme, what's your methodology in terms of split between, playing full holes or full rounds of golf versus maybe practicing specific skills? What's your split there?
Yeah, it's a really delicate balance that changes from, parts of this season as we gear up for tournaments, as we're coming off of tournaments. My philosophy is very much leans more towards randomized practice versus block practice, right? So we're not going to sit there and hit the same shot over and over. We're going to probably hit fewer shots and more variation. And that's all of our practices are going to more simulate rounds of golf. So even if we're not on the golf course as much, we're doing things that simulate that. Obviously, we're restricted by the NCAA, to 20 hours, which if you guys have played much golf, that ain't going to cut it, right? So you have to find ways to stay within the 20 hours, but recreate pressure, simulate emotional consequences, all kinds of the things that you feel in the roller coaster of golf in practices. So you have to be very creative. You have to, we're fortunate to have a wonderful short game facility that I can recreate most of those things, whether that's in drills or that's in par 3 contests or short courses, things like that, to be able to get the most out of those 20 hours. Cause you got it. We've played 4 times this week. right? That's going to be 16 hours. There's not a whole lot of left, of time to really just sit there spending I shouldn't say wasting, but just raking balls and hitting, because that's not what you do in golf. Sadly, you get one shot at it, and you better be able to handle it when the time comes.
So before we wrap up, we're going to do a quick segment we haven't done in a very long time, actually. Just
Right.
a couple rapid fire questions and we'll get it started. What would you say, as a golf coach, someone who's been around the game for a long time, the single most important skill to have in golf?
Adaptability. Yeah. Adaptability without a doubt. It's just kind of what I just said, right? You get one shot. It's going to be a different lie. It's going to be a different grass, a wind, hole, location, all of those different things. You have to be able to adapt. I actually just told the team yesterday, the best golfers are the best judges, right? The best golfers are the best judges. I am stipulating everyone on our team can hit a good golf shot if they have a bucket of balls. I'd bet you two can, right? If you had a bucket of balls, but can you make adapt to the certain circumstances that are required for that particular shot? Without a doubt, adaptability.
You might be overselling my golf skills a little bit, but I do really appreciate it. What is your favorite golf course you've ever played?
Cypress Point. Cypress Point in California. It's just up the road from Pebble Beach. #1 golf course in the entire world. Most exclusive golf course in the world. Hardest tee time to get. Was fortunate to play there a few years ago, and we played. We were the only people to play there that week. That's how few people get to play there. So without a doubt, best hole in golf, hole number 16. It's a par 3, about 215 yards, all over water. Wonderful experience.
Well, one day maybe if I can hit a bucket of balls correctly, I'll be fortunate enough to get out there.
Maybe.
Do you prefer a blade or a mallet putter?
I am when I played competitively and professionally, it was a blade. As technology has gotten better, you got to go with a mallet just for alignment purposes. But now I'm a mallet.
Very well. Final question. What is the biggest mistake you see college golfers make?
That's a great question. Speed control on the greens is specifically people think about speed control as not lag putting or in lag putting, right? Not 3 putting. When they really from 8 to 10 feet is probably the biggest differentiator between amateurs and professionals and people that went on tour, and Hall of Famers, is the ability to control speed so that they can match their line. To make a putt, you got to be able to start the ball on line, read the green, and match it with the speed. If any one of those is off, you're not going to make the putt. So start line's pretty easy, read's pretty easy, but matching the speed is really, really difficult. And then off the course, and then kind of less specifically, it's going to be preparation for practice. I think a lot of people just kind of come and hit a bucket of balls and feel like they've done done something to prepare, when really you need to be, quality over quantity in terms of golf.
Very well. Well, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a bit of a look into the women's golf program at Maryland, and we really appreciate your time. Good luck the rest of the season.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.